Throughout the session, we'll discover how ECOPS empowers workplaces with forward-thinking strategies designed to enhance productivity on top of flexibility and security. From dynamic access control to zero trust security model, we'll learn how to overcome remote work challenges while optimizing application delivery. We'll engage in discussions about mitigating risk via secure mobility and quick data access. We'll engage in the discussions about mitigating risk via secure mobility and quick data access. Plus, explore advanced topics like minimizing network vulnerabilities through enhanced biometric MFA and device context authentication. We'll take few minutes to address the questions that you have. And in case you have any questions during the discussion, you can type in the questions in the chat box. Also, we have a quiz for you and 3 winners will be receiving exciting gifts. So let's kick off with the introduction. My name is Prerna and I have been associated with Silverleaf Solutions for past 8 years, experiencing a rewarding journey filled with learning and growth. I am serving the role of Business Development Manager here. Along with me, I have my team members, Akshay, Vishali, and Vanshika. We are honored to have Vinod Kumar here with us. He is the Senior Pre-Sales Manager at ECOP with extensive experience in helping business adopt virtualization and cloud technology. He excels in guiding companies through complex IT transformations. We are excited to have Vinod share his insights and expertise with us today. Okay, allow me to provide a brief overview of Silverleaf Solutions. The organization was established in 2016, headquartered in Gurgaon. We are a global independent and research-based organization specializing in software licensing advisory and cost optimization services, software asset management service, and cybersecurity and infrastructure services. We are operating across India, US, Singapore, and UAE. We take pride in our expanding footprint and our valuable 8-year history serving a diverse customer base worldwide. I'll quickly provide a brief overview of the 3 core pillars of our services. So the first is software licensing advisory. This is an independent, research-based, and unbiased advisory service on software licensing that will ensure guaranteed savings on the current cost, alignment of software spend to actual consumption, and provide a real-time compliant environment. We have helped in realizing guaranteed savings of 12 to 15% annually across the large contracts of major software publishers like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Red Hat, Adobe, Salesforce, etc., and many others. These savings are achieved on combination of independent asset management services, user profiling, contract evaluation, technology evangelization, price benchmarking, and tax optimization techniques. Our team comprised of experts with decades of experience at Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, IBM, and more. We are committed to simplifying licensing for our clients. Our specialized team comprising experts in legal, licensing, pricing, taxation, contracting, and procurement operates under strict confidentiality, delivering this premium service. So the second pillar of our expertise is software asset management service. This is a managed service offering or can be done as one-time exercise, which would help organizations to be on the top of the software deployments across publishers and be in a state of 100% compliance. As companies have become more reliant on IT systems, the complexities also increase. And even a minor technology problem can have a severe ramification for businesses. IT failures, security breaches, and non-compliances can directly affect corporate reputation and perception, thereby creating a huge risk for the organization. Our SAM offering involve a platform-centric approach coupled with managed services and audit assistance, and these would be extremely useful to you from enterprise IT risk management perspective. The third service wherein we specialize is cybersecurity services. So cybersecurity is becoming one of the top priorities for boards as businesses transform into digital entities. At Silverleaf Solutions, we can help you devise a robust strategy and implement the best security solution for effective risk management, monitoring, analysis, and reporting. Our comprehensive services help organizations with secure application access and data security using multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, facial authentication, and contextual access control. Our partnerships with leading service providers ensure that we deliver top-notch security solutions to safeguard your organization. In case any of these services which I mentioned seem relevant to your business or your role, we would love an opportunity to meet and present these offerings in detail. Now I would request Vinod to take the discussion forward. Over to you, Vinod.
Thanks a lot, Prerna. Good morning, all, and welcome. Yeah, warm welcome here for sharing your time with us. And I hope we'll make it much more interactive as possible, right? So, but however, I'm just turning on my camera as well, right? I hope I'm visible, and just to put a face to the voice, right? So, so I mean, maybe between like if I get into any kind of an interruption in my network, probably I would turn off, or if maybe I have to save my bandwidth, I'll turn off video. But however, I'll try to keep it as much I can. Yeah. Right. That introduction was very simple and neat, but my problem is I'm a bit talkative, right? So I would take a more time, and obviously there is a small agenda between this bifurcation also, which I've done in terms of I'll take you over to the products, right, and how to create an cyber resilient architecture. What are the mandate things, and of course, at the before the end of it, like we'll just go with an demo for the whole things, whatever we have been talking about, right? So I think that's where it becomes very realistic, just not the words, it speak, or the demonstration would obviously add up more value to it, right? So a bit adjustment into my camera, right? So, okay. Uh, okay, what we are going to talk about is, let me share my screen. Right? So I hope it is visible by now. Yep. So how do you simplify and secure your hybrid work, right? So this brings in a lot of questions into it, right? So how do you make a very simplified network, like when you want to achieve all the cyber security terminologies, like everything, which we have been speaking about, a zero trust or a virtual desktop infrastructure or a multi-factor authentication, right? So that is going to be the context of this whole presentation, right? So right, that's about the agenda. And with that, I'll just do a small introduction about myself. I'm Vinod Kumar, right? So I'm the senior pre-sales manager here, covering Tamil Nadu, right? So, and we have Hyderabad also into my coverage, and as well as I extend my hands to Sri Lanka and Singapore, right? That's a brief introduction, and with which I presume that like we can get into this introduction about ACOPS as well, right? So that would be fair. And before that, like I just want to put it very simple. If you have any queries, just please feel free to put that in the chat. I have one of my colleague Praveen ready here, who is also part of the pre-sales team. He'll be able to answer your queries then and there. And if still there is something pending, probably I would pitch in maybe, or I'll just take it up at the last of the session, right? So that is what we have planned for, right? So ACOPS stands for Access and Operation, right? So any device, any kind of a network you work with, we create an organization structure or governance model where you will be able to access your business application with ease and as well as on the security, right? So we are 100% bootstrap since 2012, and we are headquartered again in Pune. And about the certifications and as well as on the the winning logos and the other things, like I'm just going to get through you so that you get a strong feeling that how ACOPS has been making impact, or it had made an impact during the pandemic, right? So in the market, and how the customers were able to make it as an ease in terms of delivering this business critical application, let it be a virtual desktop, or it could be any other web application or anything, or any cloud born application, right? So cloud native you can bring in, right? So that's going to be the whole talk about it. And if you ask about the customers, yes, we have crossed 850 plus enterprise customers serving over 2 million plus users. And the team size is there. You'll see that it's 250 plus. And mostly, I mean, 80 percentage of our team and out of this count is into the engineering and the back end of it, right? So we of the sales team make a small piece of it, like when we sit in front of the customer, right? So there is a huge team sitting at the back end, giving an 24/7 support. And you do any kind of an customization you request from this solution. Of course, that's one of the unique identity of ACOPS, right? So we'll uh, tell you about the unique cases also. I have personally worked, how it has helped customers in what case and what use case scenarios we have come across, right? So I generally say that like though it is a made in India, right? So it's made for the world, right? So we have our registered office in Japan, UAE, and we do other regions as well in the West and East. Like we have footprint, and Middle East is one of our fast growing region, I would say, right? So before getting into this, like what we provide, what I will also take a moment is I'll just do some scribblings as well in between, right? Just bear with me. And so this is quite out of this topic, right? So but we need this to be understood, because we'll come to know where we exactly stand, right? So in terms of like we missed it, like a few parameters between them, how to mitigate that, right? And or if there is any kind of an addition in the solution you want to bring in into your existing architecture, if you are which is going to be cyber resilient and it's going to be a fail proof environment, we have to follow this architecture, right? So there are five, or I would say like basic rules which will make a comprehensive solution for the 6 point which you see, right? So one is like defense in depth, right? And defense in depth, it means like I'll just pick a pen here, right? So defense in depth means like this is a user, right? So this user will have his identity, right? So we have to have this user information. This is mandate, right? And when he connects to some device, we have to make sure that this device is also being registered with us, or it's a known device to your organization, right? So whether it is going to be a corporate owned device, or going to be a bring your own device concept as well, right? And once this is being done, obviously the user will connect to some form of an internet, right? And whether this is trustworthy, absolutely no, right? So we have to bring in some kind of an connection to these applications through this any kind of an internet, right? So you will obviously depend on SSL, or it could be kind of an VPN, or it could be kind of an zero trust which has been built with this technologies, right? So an additional security obviously will be like when you get into an site to site connect, or some kind of a private networking which you can do, right? And obviously the user will be hitting into some a firewall kind of, right? So there you are taking care of your perimeter and as well as your DMZ, right? So here you will enable your WAF, here you will enable your IDP, IPS, right? So these are the ways to control the user, or maybe control the rogue user entering into your organization, right? And what is the end goal of it? Connecting to some kind of an application. That's going to be a web server. And web server, it's more of an traffic which is going to be held up handling with HTTP and HTTPS. Yes, WAF is an obviously a mandate feature which you will have to keep it enabled, so that like it becomes very secure in all nature, right? So how we also coexist with WAF, right? So web application firewall is something where we can talk about, and end is about accessing this database, right? So when you access this database, It could be an SQL or an open source DB or a MongoDB, or it could be an Oracle for that, right? So anywhere and everywhere, what we are doing is we are trying to identify what is this altogether going to bring us, right? So this is going to be secure by direct? No, right? So what we will do on this is we have to enable the user identity as a known one, right? So through your directory services, you can obviously put a face to this person and find whether he is the right person logging in, right? So that is through a facial authentication you can do, or maybe through a biometric fingerprint you can do it, right? And this device can capture up to 18 to 20 parameters like hardware serial number, motherboard serial number, many other things. So you can make a use of this parameter as well, right? And when you get into a network, you can enable a software defined networking or a zero trust tunnel, irrespective of the network you are connecting to, right? That's just a medium, right? So that's what a zero trust actually defines upon. So what we do here is we can enable this identity of this user, recording of this device, what it is doing, whether it is a zero trust enabled tunnels, right? And as well as the firewall, when someone accesses this firewall, whether and multi-factor authentication can be integrated into this, right? And a web server, when he access, whether he is coming over in reverse proxy, the most uh, uh, secure kind of an connection which you can create your application without sharing more information about your application, right? And before he connects to this person, connects to this database, again you can do an multi-factor authentication and as well as an user identity check, right? So this is what everything, when in detail you connect about it, you say that is defense in depth, right? So every time you do a positive check about the user and whether he is the right person connecting to this application, right? And a least privilege is obviously if this person needs only a few set of access into this application, we should enable that. And this should be happening on a regular basis, right? And separation of duties. Maybe if someone joins along with them, what this person can do, right? What this person can do is something is talking about the separation of the duties. These all needs and monitoring, and as well as a deep check, maybe at the fortnight, or maybe if your practice is permissive like through a month or a quarter or an yearly check you want to do it. These two things are mandate, right? And security by design, when we deploy that, it's obviously it is going to be every parameter we're just going to check. And it's about keep it simple, right? So how do we make it simple? That's what we are here, right? And you want to bring in the security by cyber security. Yes, that is again a part of it, right? So how do we make it simple? How do we make it secure? How do we make it much more easier for the user? When you are doing so many checks between this user, he is like is going to spend a lot of time into this, right? So he will access through his device, and whatever he does, you do many checks on the user gets into a problem of that, right? So to make it simplified is what we are coming into, right? So and I'll tell you in between, right? So some good use cases I have worked with. I'll try to move a bit fast due to the time constraint. And the technology and the solutions, what we provide, end user computing, virtualization, right? A zero trust access gateway, and a stronger identity management, as well as the endpoint devices, right? So these things, when they happen in the data center, someone has to control the endpoint as well, because an end user's hardware could be a problem to any organization, right? So when that is not hale and healthy, you get into some kind of difficulties. That's where you have your EDR, XDR, or a DLP kind of a solution built into those, right? So how we can even reduce those efforts, it's something we will look in, at least in brief, if not in detail, right? So we will bring in a whole solution. We will design, we will plan it, we will do a consultation work on this, and how to build your infrastructure, how to enable your team with the needed information is something we are going to look into in detail, right? This is on the recognition, the Data Security Council of India, how we are certified with that, right? And yes, we have got the Leadership Innovation Award for the product and the platform in 2004, and it happened twice. And you want to talk about Gartner? Yes, we are there. on the SSE Edge, we have a huge rating, and we have been the representative of the desktop as a service, and in the access management as well, we'll work. Right. So if you want to refer anytime on this, like we have kept it in our repository, which is publicly available. Obviously, you can see that, like where we are sitting and how we did it is something we can talk about, right? Okay, simplifying a network, right? So simplifying a network, simplifying a user access, simplifying your data center, it all depends upon what is the current model we are working on, right? So the working model has been different day in or day goes on, right? So like probably today, like I prefer to be a work from home user, right? So I sit at my home and do this webinar, right? So that is also possible. But tomorrow I have to get into some kind of an work which is going to be mandate for me while I sit in office connecting with my colleagues and do everything, right? So such kind of a stance has been taken, and this is what the market says, like 66% of the gig workers globally are there opting only for this, right? So, or maybe some people would say, I'm not ready to move to office, right? So such kind of an uses you needed, because users are mandate here for any organization to move on into an growth, and as well as on the in all other means, right? So end of the day, it's a profit is something is looking after is being looked after by the management of the organization, right? So the knowledge workers are there, right? So how you make it this as an hybrid, right? So not only on the user, even if your workload, let's say this workload is going to be on some cloud, and this person is going to connect to the data center for some applications, and maybe wants to work on some SaaS kind of an application also, which is being hosted by some other vendor, right? So, for example, SAP ERP, you take, that's a different cloud, private cloud altogether that you want to connect, right? So this is what we are going to create and tie up with, right? So if you connect these three dots, just check in the market, like, or if you want to do an assessment in the market, just check who works on this, right? So who works on this? There are very, very minimal vendors who will come into this picture, and we are one among them who have brought the digital workspace solution for the end users when they work from anywhere or any kind of a device they handle with, right? What is the current area, or like what is a pain point which many of the organizations have been handling, and this is an era of a PC computing happening with multiple vendor. You see that, right? So obviously the answer is no. Like no one can deny about that. I don't know, because no, just one vendor gives you everything what you see here, right? So in terms of an hardware from the endpoint, or if you're talking about an data loss prevention, or if it is a desktop support you want to talk about, right? So many things have been there when we were doing a PC computing. VDI came into picture, right? But still there are a lot of dependencies here, right? So you connect to Microsoft for some reason, and you connect to VMware, and so on and so forth. Like you have many other vendors who are going to build you uh, a good infrastructure. But problem here is you have to work with 8 to 9 vendors to make this VDA solution work, right? That's where we are in. We simplify it, right? And we make sure that at least this 5 parameters which I have selected comes from a single speed. That is what ACOPS is delivering. What is the benefit of it? You will receive a faster return of investment and a better support, right? And if you take this in scenario, right? So let me pick up some vendor also, right? So you are going to work with 8 vendor here, but what happens here is you connect with MacOps, and from a data center point, you have an hypervisor, server, storage. You can build them into one HCI technology, right? Let it be your Nutanix or VxTrail or any other platform, cloud, anything you connect. So now the simplification of this is you are just connecting with 2 vendors, right? Just think about that, like how it is going to benefit you when there is a lot of, a passing a bug happens, or maybe a problem statement to be put onto the other side of the vendor, right? So no vendor believes that, or like he says that there is a problem in this product, right? So that's an obvious statement. So right, but passing the bugs, or like passing on these problems will never happen within this, right? And I'm just a bit quite fast here, right? Just to handle the time. And this is what the product of Suite, the book, the shelf. I would talk about what we are offering. In a high level, I'll talk about these three comprises digital workspace, right? End user computing, virtualization, ZTNA we spoke about, and the identity management, right? Adding a cherry to that, you have the hardware for the endpoint, and we also provide as a service virtual desktops from our cloud, right? And MDM solution, a mobile device management, right? And when you add this in, right? So you want to bring in, like so few users into your on premises, and if you want to keep your users on the other side of it, like from a cloud or something like that, absolutely fine. We can support the hybrid model as well, right? So that's the intent of this talk. And Nano OS, this is an hardened operating system. Uh, we built on the Linux platform. And this will be one good use cases when you want very much, concern about the sustainability part of it, right? So how a sustainability is something you can achieve is, by reducing the number of hardware footprints. Or maybe you don't just go out and, throw that laptop on desktop. You just go out and buy out a new one, right? And create some carbon emission there, right? So that's the whole idea about building Nano OS, and how we have taken care of the sustainability and how much we are able to provide is something I can show here, right? This is the one platform I spoke about, the digital workspace, right? You get a ZTNA access gateway here. You get in end user virtualization on the other side, and as well as on the identity, right? So we have bundled this especially for some kind of an user who wants to completely work from home, right? So, or completely work from anywhere for that matter, right? So this suite, like being bifurcated with the different colors, right? So this is more concentrated onto the VDI, and this is more concentrated onto the ZTNA platform we built, and this is on the identity, right? Into which, like I can just go drill down each and everything, right? So I can speak about that here, or maybe I take a better path, like how we are going to, create that, and what are the customers who have utilized that as a complete suite, or maybe who has chosen as one single product you want to utilize for one specific solution. That is also possible, right? It's a complete allocative method. To fulfill the requirement what you want for, right? So because our motto is not to sell all the products, right? So which is not going to be utilized by all the customers, right? So these are some larger logos we have brought into our portfolio, right? So you see Axis Bank, one of the largest bank we all know, and there are 30,000 users, concurrent VDI they connect, and there are 60,000 users who are completely on the ZTNA, and as well as a multi-factor authentication enabled on all their applications. This is completely powered by COPS at the back end, right? So NIC, everyone knows about National Information Center. There are 2.5 lakh users who use a web application, right? That is around 546 applications just through and reverse proxy. Just think about, like how it can secure our data, right? So in fact, because NIC is handling our data in turn, right? So how we are, handling it and we are making it secure is something that's a milestone for us, right? So we have achieved a lot. And Reliance, yes, is there within 1 lakh users where we have migrated from Citrix, and everyone is, like this 1 lakh users are already onboarded and they are live up and running, right? The Flipkart for their warehouses, employees, vendors, where we have also enabled voice-based a solution inside the VDA, right? So that is an unique use case, you can say, how you will be able to achieve a soft phone caller, right? So inside and virtual desktop, in fact, just you can make a check, how good or how easy it is. It needs a lot of engineering construct at the back end, right? So we have done that, and most of the contact centers you talk about, like many other customers in your environment, right? So most of them will be having these issues, right? So we have mitigated that, and we have good logos also built. And there's a Quiet University where we have enabled study from home concept, for 30,000 users, right? So batch on batch, the last successful 3 years we have passed on that. It's an LMS is also integrated. Their LMS is also integrated with this our application with ACOP solution, right? And that has been allowing the users to just study from home, right? So even the lab and the virtual labs or ICT labs we speak about, everything is being enabled, right? So getting into detail about other is also something I could do, right? But I'll just keep moving on, right? Right, 80% of the insurance companies in India uses ACOPS, 90% of government organizations use it, and top three uh, private banks also use it. And first we are the first like in terms of creating a largest e-commerce company in India, right? So in terms of you want to enable such I spoke about Flipkart on this, right? So Flipkart had its own challenges, like when other players were coming in, right? So uh, in terms of like what has to be done, I see a raise in the hand from Prerna.
Yes, hi. Actually, there's a question in the chat box from Narendra Ghosh. How is Azure WVD is different from ops, and how do you handle the persistent and non-persistent VDI?
Sure. I have a slide on it. Thank you for the note. I have a slide on it. I'll share that. Just it's there in the flow, obviously, right? So these are some reference logos. Like if you want to take a quick look on it, you can just uh, take a snap, or you can just go ahead and like make a quick reference here. And the Middle East, as I told, we have a large number of customers in Japan. I just don't want to put too much time onto this, all right? So because I am just running out of the time, I see that. Right. So what ACOPS has been building, right? So in terms of simplifying your security needs, and as well as make sure that it is everywhere, anytime there is a private access or an a secure access which is happening, right? So in terms of how an user flow happens within our gateway, that is it, right? So the user accesses our gateway, right? Let's assume there is a firewall. The ACOPS appliance sits here, a virtual appliance on any of your hypervisor. We do a contextual policy access engine, right? When do a policy access engine, I can say that this man sitting with one kind of a machine, what is the parameters or what is his identity is an username password, right? So he will log in with that, and what type of device he is bringing is also being recorded. For example, if it is me, right? So I'm going to connect with a Mac with my username password, I can create a bind out of this, right? So in terms of binding, I can take 12 to 18 parameters from my Mac through my agent, and I can start connecting this user only to that device. That is what is called as a device binding. And the contextual policy access engine, though whether this access to this gateway application or anything inside this gateway application, I have an access or not, right? Or if every time you want to do a mandate check, you can do a two-factor authentication of multiple means. And anytime like if there is a failure in the user's authentication, obviously denial of access can be done, right? And at the same time, we can federate with the other providers of directory services as well. And at the same time, we also do a posture check of the device, right? When I do a posture check of the device, I can check whether this Windows is updated, right? Antivirus is updated. Any kind of an antivirus you use inside this, we have a predefined template which we can build, right? Or if you are talking about a user, Windows should connect only from a geolocation of Chennai, then obviously you can bind me to that, right? So that is kind of a solution which you can create. And when you talk about this user's laptop, I can put an access control basis on username or maybe this other device as well, right? So I can say that Vinod can come in even for the very first time without a check. If I want to allow him to access this application, I will do an contextual policy access engine and record his MAC address and keep it in my gateway check. Right? That makes your life simple in terms of the IT management and other facts, right? So that is something like we wanted to do, right? And when we do all this, everything is getting recorded here, right? So sorry for scribbling here too much. Uh, we keep a record of everything, right? So there is a plain text format of recording which is happening, right? So you can go ahead and connect this with the syslog servers, or your integrate with your SIEM kind of a solution, right? Or we also have a beautiful dashboard, a COPS reporting server, which can create an analytics of, like what is the user doing in that and how far he has been spending time on it. I have a reference snapshots of everything, whatever we are talking about, and it's an heterogeneous environment. We can go out and connect. You can bring in any kind of a device. I'll just add two more things here. You want to connect with an Android device, that is also possible. Or if you want to bring an iOS, that is also possible, right? So we are platform agnostic in terms of end user and as well as on the data center. The gateway I spoke about, right? The gateway check. Here, if you see, the user is connecting to his office PC, or he can connect to his virtual desktop. But when this user connects, I'm going to do a lot of checks on this gateway. Whatever I spoke in the last slide, when I'm doing a zero trust tunnel created between this application and the user, right? So a zero trust is obviously a mandate, right? So, or maybe by the rule of the market, right? So we have been getting into this, but an absolute zero trust will be achieved only when you don't believe the user, or you don't believe the device you are giving to the user. And whenever he connects to this application, every legitimate check of this user has to be done, though he is a known user or an unknown user. That's what a zero trust means. And any path you are connecting to, this is also need to be zero trust enabled, right? So for this, we have been or we have engineered this 15 years back, I would say, in terms of creating the zero trust, but we named it different, which we call it as an SPAN technology, secure private application networking, right? The SPAN. This is an beautiful a solution which we can talk about, right? So I will go in detail. I'm not sure if time permits, right? So otherwise, I'll just give more information on this chat, what this span does. Yeah. Point here is, let's assume what does in a very simple context, I'll say, if I have to access this office PC, right? So I would need an RDP protocol, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding this user's RDP protocol alone initiated here, but I'm going a port forwarding and connecting over the 443 port, which is TLS 1.3 enabled, right? I allow this user to connect to this office premises. And when he connects, I have already put only an application tunnel of RDP. He's just can connect to this office PC. Any office access to this network will be discarded unless and until I provide an allowed access control list to access different IPs, right? There's a port to IP mapping is being done. That's absolutely unbreakable within this gateway, right? So when the user also enters into this premises, we create an air gap here, so that any unnecessary traffic which he brings in by mistake, by an, or maybe like if he has got compromised, we make sure that this user does not have a direct connection to this applications in terms of the network, or maybe like whatever is authenticated only through this application. We will be able to diagnose that, and we create an air gap so that only the trusted legitimate traffic gets into your network, right? And this can be integrated with your SaaS platforms or your internal web applications, or for your virtual desktop, right? So that's an absolute one single solution we are talking about just for these use case scenarios we are talking about, right? Yes, of course. As I was speaking about the words, like in terms of virtual desktop infrastructure, platform agnostic, right? I will name this. This is something called as an high secure. By the name, it means hybrid. You build it on the cloud, you build it on premises. That's very much we support. Tomorrow, okay, I mean tomorrow, when you are on premises and you are want to go to the cloud, in that case, like probably you can carry these licenses as well anywhere you get into the any cloud platform, right? So that is because like we provide both subscription based model and as well as perpetual, and they are not platform dependent, right? When I told about multiple platforms, this is something called as an HiveWorks, right? That provides a scalable and a comprehensive video solution. You talk about Nutanix, you want to talk about Hyper-V compatibility, vSphere compatibility, or on the Azure, GCP, or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or AWS. Absolutely, we can build our solution in that, right? So you bring your tenant, we can build it, or we have our own tenant to give it as a service. And we are also getting into this Proximox solutions, right? So you want to build this? Yes, it's already on the roadmap, and we are about to hit it. We are on the last miles. We will be supporting Proximox as well. You will soon hear from us on that, right? And the guest platform, yes, of course, it can be Windows 10, 11, or if you want to support it on a platform of Linux, we support, yes, obviously this, and as well as Boss Linux also, if you want to add, absolutely possible, right? And this controller is a virtual machine that sits in your network in any of the hypervisor. I'm just making a quick run through on this. The last one, which we will talk about more, is multi-factor authentication, right? So anywhere in the cyber architecture I told about, an identity of the user need to be checked, and a multi-factor authentication is mandated to identify he's the right user working on this, right? So in terms of any, I'll give you a very flat example, right? So that's all application you want to get supported by a multi-factor authentication on any of these parameters or form factors, we are absolutely there. So even in few cases, you can see that where we have enabled for Citrix and VMware as well. Or for example, you take Zscaler or Netscope, or you take SAP, right? So any kind of a solution and cloud application, you want to enable a multi-factor authentication, we are there, right? So we will be able to 100% do that. And we are also building in different kind of an authentication mechanism, and we can create a single sign-on on that, right? So that's the a good thing about the High ID. This is the product, the name of the product. And if you see just coming down here, if you see, like if you want to enable this for your server login before a user logs in, you want to do a multi-factor authentication check about that user, that is possible, right? So you just go ahead and connect to this Windows credentials, and you will be able to enable this multi-factor authentication. And that multi-factor authentication can be of email, SMS, PC token, or if you want to do a soft token mobile app, or if you want to go for a fingerprint or a facial authentication, that's also possible. And we support FIDO also, right? And you want to do a mobile push notification, even we can make this very easy by doing a passwordless authentication, right? So passwordless authentication is something I will be able to demonstrate in a while, right? Supports all token, and whatever we have seen in this last 3 screens, it's talking about a digital workspace solution, right? And if you want to do a continuous facial authentication of the user who is sitting out of your office and working on some other different location, and if you want to keep an eye on that user, like in terms of monitoring another thing, if there is some kind of a proxy happening by the user, that is absolutely possible, right? So if I'm going to connect to this PC with my camera turned on, right, that means that I'm the only user who can sit, right? So if someone proxies me, it's trying to sit in front of this laptop, obviously it detects and says there is an anomaly, and it prompts me for the username, password, and multi-factor authentication again, right? So that is how we do in continuous monitoring, and we make sure that the facial detection is being done, and that the user does not bring in kind of a smart device and put it in front of the camera and say that, yeah, I'm present always, it's a video recording or a tab which is being connected in front of the camera, right? That is also possible. That's where we do a liveliness check of the user, right? So the liveliness check of the user is being done, a continuous monitoring of is done, and his facial structure is being read and templated, so that everything whatever we are talking about is being stored in this authentication server, right? So when you ask about what are the parameters I will have to bring in when I have to adopt this, you just need a laptop or a desktop with inbuilt camera or an attached camera, right? So other than that, we can bring our own biometric server, we can bring in our own protocols which we can make it enabled in here, and face reading templates on the server is also being there, and it is 100% GDPR compliant, right? So no worries about it, irrespective of the industry it is, GDPR is a mandate, right? So you go for HIPAA, you go for SOC, or you go for anything, right? In terms of certification, ISO certifications or anything, everything needs this kind of in compliance, right? And unique use cases, I have built, as I told you before, right? Just a check on the time. Okay, I think we started 5 minutes late, but anyway, I think it's almost we are on the end of the slides, right? So unique use cases, what we have personally achieved, right? So maybe I would say that, there will be a huge list out of which these are my personal wish list, which I have enabled for certain customers, right? If you ask me the name, probably I can just add it, share it one-on-one, right? A corporate email device restriction policy, right? Let's assume you connect to an Azure. Azure gives you a benefit of connecting over the internet anywhere, right? Uh, uh, that is very much possible, right? So we can do a device control check on that, right? So device control is very much possible that this machine only can connect to that Azure, and he can access his emails, right? So no other devices are allowed. Unified unidirectional clipboard. This is especially for the developers to maintain your source code so that the user can deposit anything into this virtual desktop infrastructure. Let's assume he is a developer, right? So and there is a database which is connecting on the office. There is a firewall in between. He can do and deposit into this database, but he cannot retrieve anything from this database, right? So that because he works on a source code here, so anytime that is being taken out, it's a threat to this organization, right? So that is something I have achieved here, right? So we can demonstrate that very much. And multi-factor authentication or a SSO for your legacy applications possible, reusing your own laptop and desktops, right? And helping in terms of sustainability, right? For the green programs, whatever the government has been running, right? So the world is behind that. Everyone will need some kind of a sustainability contribution to this world, right? So that's the whole VDA solution being built, and you did not go out and enforce users to just go out and bring new thin clients, new laptops, and everything for this. You can reutilize your existing desktops and laptops, right? Whitelisting applications. When a CUPS runs in the endpoint of the user, it can detect what application can be friendly with that, right? So who has an enmity with that? That can be decided very much. And a passwordless authentication, QR code based problem or the solution what we brought in, because if, for example, any kind of a browser you use, this browser can read about your username password, right? Very much possible. This username password, once it is being collected over the internet through some other means by someone, this is very much a compromise, right? So to make sure that there is no password being stored in this local machine through this browser or any other application use, you can go for a QR code authentication, right? Or if you want to do an MFA only, that's an one-time password. I can use my mobile number, or I can use my email, right? So for that fact, I'll just give my username and the OTP generated that time. I'm free with that, right? So no, even if a browser records, I'm not worried about that. How to increase the OT desktops availability, right? So OT desktops are mostly dependent on getting into a problem when there is an wear and tear and it's being used to bad extent, right? So how to increase availability of it or make it life much more better, right? So that is what this use case specifically talks about. And reverse routing technique, right? What generally happens, the gateway is here, any gateway we are talking about, right? And the end user is sitting with this laptop, right? This is possible. And now, as of now, we are working on this model where you go and talk to the gateway and or to this application and bring this information to you, right? We can change this, right? So in terms of the access, the gateway can take this offloading of it, and it can always check with the user, are you having any request here, right, to me? So in that way, our gateway solution will be able to do as reverse routing techniques, and you will be able to grab those traffics and make sure that only the needed resources are being taken from the user, and the needed acknowledgement is being done, right? So also screen recording for users, especially for vendor-based access system, when you want to do what he's doing inside that system, the virtual desktop, which is infrastructure which you have given to him, is something mandate for your forcing, right? So you can do an absolute screen recording of it and make sure that the user is monitored always, right? And we have also built in something called as an hurdle, right? And that is a remoting tool which has an audio and the text support. This is complete to eradicate few of the desktop remoting tools, like you have Damware, or you're talking about TeamViewer or AnyDesk, right? So such kind of tools can be avoided because you are always connecting to the internet. Though you have a subscription with them in a SaaS model, still you are connecting outside your network to get that access, right? So we have controlled that, and most of the government organizations have adopted that. Right, so this is a purpose-built remoting tool which can help your organization in a very good way, that you build only your remoting tool. No one comes inside this. But if you say, if you want to bring in a vendor from outside, that's possible, right? So you share a link to him, you make the server available at the outside, he comes in, connects to you, and when he does all these things, we can give a tool, or this application can run on his machine. You give a login to him and make sure that he never copies any information what he is trying to do here, right? That kind of a DLP enforcement, you can do it for this vendor-based access also. Logging reports, as I told about this reporting server, right? You have this reporting server. It talks about what is the nodes utilization, what time you have been consuming, how much time you have consumed it, what is your total license, when this person logged in, when this person logged out, right? So what a total active time, total session time, how much out of this total session time he was active, right? With the user IDs and other things also, you can monitor it. What is he doing inside this virtual desktop infrastructure? He reports about some network issue, that my VDA is slow. You can do and check on this network, like why this slowness is being reported, whether the slowness is on the resource level, or it is from the end user, or the network level, that can be detected along with this. It's a beautiful graphics representation, and this is 200% customizable for your environment, right? So these are things, like majorly I wanted to show here. All right, I'll just skip this, like this is what I was talking about, the reporting server. And this is where, there was a question in between, right? This is it, right? So you talk about comparing with a virtual desktop infrastructure on the cloud, and as well as on premises, you can do a direct comparison, right? But the point is, we are not just comparing with one vendor here, because none of this one vendor will be able to give it in a single suite of license, right? We provide a digital workspace that can do a VDI here, that can do a gateway zero trust check here, and as well as it can enable a multi-factor authentication, right? So in comparison with AVD, yes, you can bring your licenses if you are already there in the AVD, right? So in terms of, like what is the demand on whether it is a P1 license or an E5, E3, right? So whatever you are connecting to, if you want to reduce the overall, sizing of it, or in terms of, like the commercials and other things, what are the features we enabled here, it can be, removed from others. So what you do is, basically if you are in a P1 or some kind of an higher end licensing models, you can downgrade it, you bring a savings to it. Instead, you will be investing on a COPS, and where it will bring you multiple other ways of, bringing this simplified network. And this everything we are talking about, right? Just I would say there are two consoles to manage everything, right? You talk about a ZDNA, you talk about a VDA, multi-factor authentication. That's two different consoles. And if you want to go into some kind of an thin client devices, and if you want to do a centralized management of it, that is also there inbuilt to this, right? CMS is very much possible here. If you go for a reporting tool, you probably get into the third console, right? So that's the whole crux of, how we can bring in one single suite and fulfill many of the needs of yours, right? And here, every hypervisor you bring, as I told before, you can do it. Repurpose your whole hardware, please. You please do it, right? In terms of many ways, you can control that your carbon emission to the world, and as well as on the lab virtualization and the time-bound desktops, or maybe you can take it on a different note here, right? So I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. I say 4 minutes, right? Maybe in some point in time, you say that, a user can connect, right? And that machine to be destroyed immediately once he connected, because he is a vendor. He would have brought some rogue information into my network, and it could sometime penetrate into my network, right? So that's how a ransomware or something happens. So obviously I can do this reservation management system and enable it and delete it by time, right? So once after the logout, it completely deletes and moves out, right? On the whole, I just don't want to put too much time here, with which, like, I'm just open for questions for a 1 minute or so, and you can also, visibly see what we have been talking about till now, just over this, all right? What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to open, and there are two ways of accessing it, right? So as I speak, I'll demo that as well. I'm just connecting to my gateway, the Zero Trust gateway, which I spoke about, and I'm just giving my username password there. And this is a clientless access we are talking about, or if you want to bring it as a client-based, I have a client-based solution as well, right? So client-based solution has a lot of DLP features also enabled in it. We will touch again, like in terms of if you want to get into detail of everything, right? So that will be an one-on-one. And these are the OTP methods I was talking about, pre-built with this device, right? If you want to do a facial authentication, that is also very much possible. A push notification based or a FIDO key based, you want to do it. I'll just opt for the mobile token. We have a soft app which is there available in App Store and as well as in Android Play Store. I just copy paste that here. Or if you want to mandate this user to just type it, never copy paste it, that is also possible. Just because of the design of this page, I have been able to do it. And if you want to download the client and connect to it, there is an availability for that as well. And it's cross-platform, right? So you can connect here. That's how I see my virtual applications in my office, right? 3 areas of bifurcation in this sheet is an application virtualization I'm talking about. I'm talking about virtual desktop infrastructure, and I'm talking about web application enabled with reverse proxy, right? Sometime I want to connect to the server in my data center as an IT person. I wanted to do a check of that user. That is also absolutely possible. Let me click on everything, or at least few, right? So let's take a test of a huge workload, right? SAP demands for a zero latency, absolutely, right? And this is working on the basis on the user profile which is being created in my data center, right? For me in this resource, I'll be able to run my SAP application from my Mac, right? So the cross-platform support is something we are talking about here. For the time, I'll also go ahead and spin a Linux desktop, a dedicated Linux desktop that is being given to me. That's possible. I see the desktop already. I'm just connected over my home broadband. I am able to access every application, documents, go deep, file system, boot, AFI, right? So it keeps this access control as in how it is being created in the golden image, right? I can just go log off. Rather, I'll go and check SAP is loaded. Okay, still loading. Let me check on a virtual desktop infrastructure, which is dedicated for me in Windows platform, right? So what is happening is it just going to the backend, checking in my Active Directory, whether I'm authenticated in the right manner or not. And two-factor authentication also happened. I'm just using my single sign-on here without authenticating many times, right? So I see my desktop here, Windows. I can open anything I want here. I can just work on the browser, right? So if I want to connect over the client also, that is possible. I will be, and if there is a device restoration of your older session also you wanted to do, that is also possible. When the user disconnects, this happens,